Okay, so as you all know, Texas is having a crisis, and the Supreme Court told them to stand down as far as the razor wire is concerned. And because the United States government, our government, was going in and cutting that razor wire, and there's photos that you've seen where they're lifting it for the migrants to come through, and they're coming through in the thousands. So this is a report that we got regarding the Republican Governors Association. And 25 Republican governors released the following joint statement in support of Texas Governor Greg Abbott. And this statement comes as the Biden administration continues to attack Texas and refuses to take action and responsibility for the crisis. So this is the letter, folks. President Biden and his administration have left Americans and our country completely vulnerable to unprecedented illegal immigration pouring across the southern border. Instead of upholding the rule of law and securing the border, the Biden administration has attacked and sued Texas for stepping up to protect American citizens from historic levels of illegal immigrants, deadly drugs like fentanyl, and terrorists entering our country, not even mentioning sex trafficking of children. We stand in solidarity with our fellow Governor Greg Abbott and the state of Texas in utilizing every tool and strategy, including razor wire fences, to secure the border. We do it in part because the Biden administration is refusing to enforce immigration laws already on the books and is illegally allowing mass parole across America of migrants who entered our country illegally. The authors of the U.S. Constitution made clear that in times like this, states have a right to self-defense under Article 4, Section 4, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Because the Biden administration has abdicated its constitutional compact duties to the states, Texas has every legal jurisdiction to protect the sovereignty of our state and our nation. Here's the states that signed up. And the signatories include, and I'm not going to read all the names, but Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, Governor Cox, and Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming.
Hold on. I want to pause for a minute. Mark Gordon. I know the name of the governor of Wyoming.
Finally. That's come up a few times. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sad that we are nearly 4 years into this precedent, and this is where Texas has had to go. And I'm happy that he's not going it alone, and that our governor signed up and is prepared to back Texas. This, to me, is common sense. Again, we keep bringing it up. It's common sense that, as Brad Wilson said, when you're sending all this money to another country and letting a literal invasion happen in your own, this is insanity. And we as Americans are at risk all the time because of what's come over, because they don't know. And he's like what that letter said, you've allowed a parole situation, so where these people get signed in, not fingerprinted, not given DNA tests, not getting background checks, not getting even vaccinated from diseases we've already killed years ago because we're not a third world country, and not finding out if they're criminals, which they have found. Parts of them have all come out of the same prison and of the same country.
Well, they have this last year, not this last year, the first 6 months of this last year, 40 known international terrorists were picked up at the border. I think it was like 48. So how many squoze through? That's a big question.
They say,
they're all, it's like the dominance of them are military age young men. So, it makes me think of the Visigoths crossing the Danube. Are we Are we inviting in our own conquerors?
Not only, I mean, you said it regarding the Electoral College and the effect this will have on the census and all of that. It makes a lot of sense. And my hope is that the
Short-term
Democrats
gains.
will be quickly surprised when they find out that a lot of people from Mexico, especially, are conservatives usually.
Well,
and the ones
here's
that
the
I
deal.
know,
Most
hold
of the
on,
immigrants
ones
aren't
that
from Mexico.
I understand that, but the ones that have been here a while and the ones that I know that they're my friends. I'm not asking them their status, but I know they're very conservative. They believe in Christian values. They're hardworking people. They're extremely, most of them have probably jumped through every hoop you can imagine to try to get citizenship. So we already know reform is a huge issue. But how do you reform something when you can't even stop the leaking? And now it's not even a leak. Now it's just a flow stream, and they're trying to get in as fast as they can because they know, and they even interviewed on the border. They know when Trump gets in, it's over.
Yeah. Well,
so they're trying to get as many in as possible. And the current administration and what Kamala Harris has said is amnesty is the plan, is to get them in and get them a path to citizenship, which even Obama, when he took over, he was absolutely against this.
Obama's deported more than Trump. Here's the deal.
Obama's the one who started the kids in cages.
The
was his
Democrats have made the Faustian deal. They can't stop now. You're not going to get a stoppage out of the Democrats because the Democrats have chased away. Here's the numbers. I just looked at them this morning. They've chased away 20% of the black vote, which is a deal breaker for them. So they have to try to bring in enough asylum seekers to offset that 20% loss. It's 20% of the black vote for Trump.
Yeah, because
not for Republicans or not for something else, for Trump. And then it's
because of the indictments.
They've lost 13% against Biden. So they've got 20% plus 13%. That's 33% that will not support Biden or probably any Democrat getting in. They're probably leaning towards a Green Party or maybe, God willing,
I'm
a Libertarian
surprised they weren't
Party.
handed ballots for the 2024 election when they came in.
So the Democrats can't stop this now because they're out. They're done. They're done across the board. I mean, we're probably going to see in some of these major cities like New York City and Chicago, we're probably going to see no incumbent in. And that's going to be across the board.
We need it. People, we need to stand up. We need to, with our votes, get rid of them. If they're voting for these policies or lack of, we need them out.
Yeah, Johnson in Chicago, I mean, he's just a out and out socialist. You got what's his junk in New York City anyways, Adams. Those guys they're coming to a head because they made all these promises. They got in. I mean, New York last week or the week before made kids stay home so that they could house these immigrants in their school, which throws parents into an uproar. And of course they select the poorest school with the worst everything because who else are you going to victimize? You're going to victimize people who have lawyers on retainer? No, we're not crazy. We're going to go after the people who have no ability to fight us on this. Send the kids home, which means the parents can't go to school that day or can't go to work that day. So they lose a day of work. They get in trouble at work. I mean, but we're looking at it. It's the Democrats have to pander to these immigrants right now because that's their new voting base. They have to have that.
California is letting them vote already, and
sure.
California just voted to give them free health insurance in California.
California's going to be
our own veterans don't even have free health insurance. And can I just say, I have to say hi to Dave Brunel because I absolutely love him.
Yeah.
And his wife, Misty. They're awesome. Thank you for tuning in, friend.
Yes. But no, you're looking at it now. They've got to fill those voter blocks. They're going to try to give amnesty. I'll bet we're going to see Maybe this year we're going to see new laws trying to be written on how people gain citizenship. They're going to try to figure out how to fast track at least some of them because they're losing the black vote and they want to gain that back. I mean, heck, Charlemagne the God.
I don't even think they want the black vote back. I think they're
No,
going to push all their efforts into
Well, they
these
have
folks.
to because they've already lost it because they're the people. They're the point of the spear on paying the price for these decisions.
Absolutely. And this is the thing is I know a few that have mentioned that they took the red pill and they're looking back and going,
I don't
wait,
think they took the
what
red
did
pill.
Trump do for me? What's happening to me right now? It's all about policy and they have a voice.
I'm going to make an uncomfortable comment
Democrats have assumed for too long they have their support and haven't actually worked for it.
I'm going to make an uncomfortable comment right now. Is that those people are still on the left because they want those short-term gains. That's how I define left and right now. People on the left go for short-term gains. People on the right build a foundation and try to work towards something stronger. And they still want those, but the Democrats are losing them because they have paid the price for the Democrats' short-term gains on immigration. And I'm sure when the Democrats first had that open borders thing, it was just to pander to their ultra left, purple haired, gender studies degree moron nitwits. That's all it was. But now I think they have to do it.
Look,
I don't think the Democrats are going to change that because they can't now. They can't right that ship. The damage is done.
I have to get in here. I know lots of voters and many that have brought this up that are black voters.
Mm-hmm.
They believe too. They're not following along with the trans movement. They're not going to sit back and go, oh, it's not a mental illness. Yeah, we need to accommodate. Their kids are already, they want school choice. They want the ability to be considered innocent until proven guilty. And I know some that turned just because of the indictments to Trump, where they're like, oh man, now he knows what our people have suffered. And the truth is, Trump does know. Trump does understand. Trump was the president of the reform that regarded prison and the
First Step
courts.
Act.
Yeah. So I think they see that Trump wasn't telling them that they need programs to be successful. He was presenting the fact that these are amazing people with incredible ability. Let's get out of their way and make sure there's jobs available. On that same note, I also know we need migrant workers, and I've said this over and over. There are businesses that are suffering because they cannot get employers, because they can't afford to pay more than minimum wage. And there are jobs that only pay that. And we do need to have a reform where migration is concerned, because undocumented folks come over expecting to work. They deserve a free wage as well, to something that's going to be something they can support their families. But they have to go through the front door. And that's it. We've got to change that. It takes so many years and so much money. With technology the way it is now, if we can't prove someone and their background or who they are, they shouldn't come over. But if they have a sponsor, a company willing to bring them over and to vouch for them as they go through the process, that is how it was designed to work. Why are we putting if it's 1 million people a year that we're giving out a citizenship to, why do we have to have it at 1 million? If the country needs more, we need more. But it should be reformed. And what's happening at the border right now is not about people wanting a better life. What you're seeing is opportunistic. These people are coming over. We have an administration that on day one invited them and shut down all the policy that Trump had in place, stopped building the wall, in fact, let all the stuff rot. And now it's by design, like you said. Now they're spreading across the country. And here's the problem. We don't know who they are. And they're getting checks from the American people. And they're getting checks from us. They're getting cell phones from us, and we can't know where they are. And they're getting more. Most of them are getting more money than some of the average income in this country.
They make more than people on Social Security.
More than Social Security. And not only that, if they go back and then come across again, they get it again. And folks, they're not going to prison. And if they are, why are we housing them in prisons and not sending them to Mexican prisons? Why are we not working with the countries of origin to get them back when they commit crimes? Because they keep coming back. Some of these murders are happening for people who've been deported 5-6 times.
Well, that guy that did the murder where they found the bodies down there by 5 Mile Pass. I'm going to say I would be I would be okay with open borders if we offered zero support. You can come across.
I don't want open borders.
You have to sustain yourself coming across.
But what if they're criminals? What if they're sex traffickers? No, we cannot have open borders. Sustaining themselves or not.
But I am not okay with open borders. It's just my personal policy. And but I'm not okay with open borders if we're going to have a financial load that we offer them. When everyone talks about, Ellis Island, they came over here and
we know who every one of them were.
It's not just that, but even then, when they did have open borders, they would show up, they would sign up, and the government gave them nothing. Nothing. The taxpayers carried no burden for them.
And they quarantined to make sure they weren't ill, and they sometimes at Ellis Island they would.
It wafted back and forth. When the Wobblies come over, there wasn't a lot of quarantine.
But there was a whole intent.
Not the Wobblies, the strike breakers for the Wobblies
to
when they
protect.
came over.
The intent was to protect the American citizens.
Know who's coming.
These people also were told to acclimate. They were told to learn the language so they could do work.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's mother is an immigrant.
We've got a great big population here in Tooele that came over here during the strike breaking of 1900 when they broke the strikes of the miners from Greece, from Italy, Italy. I think we may have even got some Eastern European.
You know how they came over though? They weren't. This is the thing. I know people from Mexico that live here that are still trying to obtain their status. They flew in. They went to the departments they had to go to start the process. They were visiting on vacation. And this is the thing, like they weren't sneaking through a border, paying someone to get them across. Then when they get across, they actually owe more money. So they're in debt to these coyotes where there's trafficked for sex or they're trafficked to be mules for fentanyl and other drugs. And these people can never get out from underneath this. And we are responsible because we're tolerating this. We're not stopping it. The border's closed. Go through that door and do everything we ask of you because no other country runs their borders this way. None. But we're expected to because we're going to make you feel bad that you're racist, xenophobic, whatever it is, because we're not wanting to know who's here. There's too many crimes against our kids, against our young girls. There's some cities that are just lost.
Yeah.
They're lost. You don't go there. In Chicago right now, at the Chicago airport. Have you seen that?
I don't know.
There are makeshift tents set up all inside the airport, and it is loaded so much so it's overflowing. They figure it's 100 yards at least of tents with just cots. And not only are these folks put there because we had a governor say enough's enough, and now they're in the airport in Chicago, and the people flying in that are seeing it, they're afraid because these people are aggressive with them.
Yep. Well, I mean, it's welcome to the future. I don't know. I like to think of the movie Escape New York as our future. Anyways, but yeah, I don't know. The answers are complicated right now. The laws that have been written are on both sides, the right and the left. The laws that have been written, I think, are unfunctional for what we need. We do have a population collapse. We do need to have immigrants do that. Mexicans aren't coming over anymore because Mexico's on its way up. Mexico is they've lit the igniters. They're on the way up. We've hit the atmosphere. We're on the way down. We're burning tiles off the belly. So now our immigrants are Haitian, which, Hillary Clinton took good care of them, and Venezuelan and all of that. Those, some African countries, Pakistan, things
There's
like
Chinese.
that.
A lot of Middle East.
And how much of that? I mean, if I was
Fred.
If I was to go full conspiracy right now, let's say I was the UN or Davos, one of those, whatever. Just picture Dr. Evil. And the thing standing in my way from world control was them damn armed, freedom-loving Americans. How would I conquer America? China couldn't invade us. If China invaded San Francisco, it wouldn't make it to Nevada. It'd be petered out, smoked, and full of holes. But you get inside. You send people across the border. What you do is you make sure that the person in office is dementia just enough that he doesn't know what he's doing.
What? Wait.
And this is exactly what I'd want. I'd want to be able to hire people, sneak them in under the radar, get them together, and then next thing you know, you can from there. It's a couple ways you can do it. You can do small dynamic actions that cause the government to go into an uproar, and
bankrupt cities with all the handouts.
No, they'll go in and they'll write laws. They'll go into emergency actions where they take away the rights of the people.
That's something I could see happening from the government right now with what's happening in Texas.
That's how you kick off a civil war. Or you could do full on actions. Just build brigand battalions. You go either way. Or you could do it when the FBI. What do you call it? The FBI Recreation Group? What's it called? Patriot Front. Next time they're out marching around in their khaki pants, all you got to do is just have some of those guys.
You
maybe
think
lighter.
The FBI? I think they're a white supremacist organization.
Okay, go on.
No, I heard them speak, and they're talking about how the problem is. Sure. One of the guys said the problem is you're not. It's not
sure.
white
and
people.
If I was the FBI,
and I'm like, okay.
If I was the FBI, who's put it in their marks that they want to deface.
Oh no, I wouldn't doubt that the FBI is behind them. I just think,
okay, yeah,
they look like FBI, but they're also talking white supremacists.
When has the FBI not been white supremacists?
Well, that's the biggest threat to our country right now, according to Biden.
Let's ask Martin Luther King Jr. how he feels about it. Anyways, but no, and just have an action happen then, and boom. And I think the thing is to get our government to start martial law, just small, like they did in Watertown, where they kind of restrict just a town at a time. Because they did a town at a time with, a bad thing happened, so let them into your house. We got to take your weapons away, like they did down in Katrina, and just do it in little chunks to where you disarm maybe 30% of the populace. That'd weaken us enough to where the government could roll over. I mean, they already run Obama started running the conservative officers out of the Army. And when was that? 2014, 2013. He ran, 119 field grade officers. That means major and above out of the Army. He ran that many out.
He also depleted a lot of our resources.
Well, yeah, but he ran our officer corps down. Officer corps is traditionally the brain of the military. You run the conservative out, boom, right there. You took the brain out. Then next thing you know, conservatives won't join the Army like they're not right now, which I've got a story pulled up from Military Times.
But I want you to let me say something.
Oh, please go ahead.
When you look at the map of the governors who have joined forces, and they've got the map. Have you seen the map with the reds? The reds for the states that are joining Texas. Good and bad. One, that could be an idea of what a national divorce looks like. And now we're kind of connected. So the states are kind of connected, which is good. But two, that could also be, I could see Biden considering this a national emergency, maybe issuing martial law.
Well, not Biden, his controllers. I mean, let's face it.
Obama, which he's always wanted to do, because martial law, that folks,
Biden,
we know we're in trouble because they will disarm people. They will put military against citizens of this country. And Texas's action is not putting the military against citizens of this country. They're protecting the border.
Let's face it, with Biden, they go in there, hit him under the nose with the smelling salt. He sits up, injection in the upper butt cheek is some meth, and then he goes out and does his half hour once a month, whatever he's doing. And then after that, he just sacks back out.
Whatever he's doing, he doesn't even know what he's doing.
I'll bet they pull like a fuzzy blanket on top of him, and he sits there in slippers by a fireplace. But anyways, so
Fred says they're not going to disarm him. And that's the thing. I hope that again, the sheriff who you vote for will decide how serious it gets.
May decide it depends. I mean, they could overwhelm like Twilla County easy. But here's the deal. When they go to disarm, it'll be on a city by city basis, and it'll be a long spread out thing, but they don't have time to do that this year.
But the military people I know would not go against their own. I know it happens, but
it happened.
I think
it happened in Katrina.
I know.
And there was one unit that didn't do it. Well, and it was a Utah National Guard unit that got called up to go down there.
I get this. And what I'm saying is, I know a Marine right now.
And that guy got run out of the National Guard.
Okay. But what I'm telling you is, if he's run out of the National Guard, fine. As long as he's not in prison, he can join the rest of us who refuse to give up our constitutional rights. And I think the soldiers that I know, they would not follow a commander-in-chief to go after their own citizens. It doesn't say it's not happening, and by design, they're going to have plenty. But again, we have to make sure that those of us that want to stand up, that they're not alone, and that the time for sitting on your hands is over.
I agree.
You've got to stand up. If you're in the military, if you're in the government, it doesn't matter. You've got to stand up instead of following orders.
I'm not siding with them. I'm just saying this is the roadmap they could use. I don't think they could do that this year unless, here's the way they'd play that out. The emergency action would kick off with, we have to suspend elections.
Yeah, suspend
elections.
And
then next year,
like they're doing in Ukraine,
rolling through and disarming people. But anyways,
the American people cannot allow them to suspend elections. And I'm telling you right now, Utah governor, lieutenant governor, we need to make sure we hold our elections no matter what. Because if COVID didn't knock us out, and what's happening in Texas is going to be used. And if we all are eyes open on this, we can see it for what it is. The Obama administration can't do anything at this point because they know they look bad. They look terrible. So I'm hoping that they don't want in an election year to have a civil war start at the border of Texas.
I can't wait to see that.
So hopefully they stay back.
Battalions of purple-haired gender studies majors rolling over the hill.
Seriously.
with jammed weapons.
Get on that Babylon Bee.
They're wearing, the boys are wearing high-heeled shoes.
Well, and the girls is licking their paws.
Okay. That's their special forces, the furries.
People, we have Babylon Bee. You got to do something like this in one of your stories, that the military is hot on the track of Texas, and have it be just like that. I honestly think the last thing they want is
they would have one person say, "Go get them, boys," and they all freeze and stop. Did you assume my gender?
Gender language when
in this
talking to us. But that's what they've done. They've used DEI to fill up our coffers in the military. I'm saying
this right now. In a civil war, the conservatives would win. They have the rural areas, they have the weapons, and they have continuous areas. The liberals they're allocated in cities. If you look at a map, they don't have any areas that touch. They would be starved out at the least, and they would be run over at the most. Now,
I think they'd kill each other
the
because rural would avoid them.
The big
and let them
judgment,
implode.
every civil war, the big judgment has come down to which side did the army go to? That is the decider in every civil war. No civil war.
Are you meaning army in general, or are you meaning the branch army?
The army in general.
The military. Gotcha.
Which side got the army? This one wouldn't have much naval action because it's a continuous continent. Sorry, Alaska and Hawaii, they'd probably peel off and do their own thing and probably live a good life.
Alaska would probably thrive.
I know, and Hawaii.
And
they wouldn't
Hawaii.
be paying federal tax. But anyways, I want to talk about this. So the Democrats have been destroying our military. Trump built it back up. My brother is a retired Army guy. He was in there under Trump, got out right before Biden got sworn in. And he said it was great under Trump, but he remembers how bleak it was under Obama.
Right. Their hands were tied under Obama.
It's not just that.
Fred says the Army weapons would be nice to have.
They wouldn't get funds. But the Army, Navy, and Air Force are all missing their recruiting goals by thousands.
And how many of them? Now they have suspended the mandate on the COVID vaccine. I know because my cousin has joined the Corps 2 years ago, and he said he was mandated he had to get a vaccine, and many were let go due to that, their refusal. Well, now they're suspending that and inviting them back.
How many people are going to go back? If they can treat you so flippantly, kick you out for 2 years, would you go back?
I can't
Shit,
imagine.
is your PT even ready to go back now that you've gone out and got a
this
job?
Commander-in-Chief?
Under any of them. Anyway, so the Marine Corps is the only group that is going to meet its fiscal goal of 29,000 new Marines. The only one. The Army is falling short by thousands. The Air Force by thousands.
How's Space Force doing?
Space Force pulls from other branches. Space Force does not have an initial sign up by itself, but it's hurting because the others are hurting, because the Army and the Air Force and the Navy are not going to let people go when they're not meeting goals. The Space Force doesn't do any direct recruitment. I think that has something to do with, the ability to fly flying saucers or something. I don't know. You
ditch Space Force. I would totally join Space Force.
But so you got the conservatives. They're saying that the conservative politicians are saying, obviously they're not joining because the Democrat Party right now is not treating them well, with the COVID vaccination. They've run the conservatives out. So conservative parents, one, they aren't.
The DEI requirements that are
the
involved.
DEI, the COVID, all of that, conservative parents aren't fostering. And that's where traditionally, our military came from.
Fred says the Air Force should be able to regroup, staying in hotels, eating restaurants. How nice.
But they still come from conservative families.
Right.
And they're like, do I want my son in Eastern Europe or Israel? And I know there's a big pull on the conservative side to support Israel right now. And I'm not saying we do or don't, but would you want to send your kid over there?
I would not want my child working for this Commander-in-Chief. I think presidents matter.
Would you send your kid over there, over to the Middle East right now? Pick your favorite Commander-in-Chief. Ronald Reagan's the old man.
First and foremost, you don't get a choice. It's your kid's choice. So right off the bat,
would you foster it?
I wouldn't be happy, but I think that if you had a proper Commander-in-Chief that didn't tie your hands and rules of engagement, and you actually, I know Obama tied a ton of hands. Don't shoot at them. What if they're shooting at me? We don't want you to engage. Well,
the biggest thing he did was they didn't have money for materials.
They don't have money for materials now.
It wasn't just about shooting guns, but the way my brother explained it is they didn't get money for the materials they needed. They lived
life-saving.
Not just that, but even just in your in your tents over there, your barracks. They weren't up to par. They didn't spend money. They didn't replace stuff when it was broken. They had to make do. Their blankets, were threadbare, I guess is the best way to put it.
My cousin that is in the Marine Corps mentioned to me that simple things like chest plates, good helmets, things like that are going. They're using yesteryear's equipment. Your commander-in-chief matters.
It does.
Because when Trump got in, he tried to replace what was missing out of the Navy.
My brother talks about that a lot.
And that's the thing.
He said when Trump was the old man, they got a pay bump, first of all. And then they never had to beg for anything. But that's all in the back of the taxpayer. So
but that was all a lot done on executive order, which we could we're talking about the military industrial complex.
Well, it's also
we spend spending
through Congress.
Many countries' GDP we spend just alone on our military. And yet how on earth do you deplete a Navy? Do you deplete the very basic needs our military
budget's going to Ukraine?
No, I'm saying before Ukraine. This was happening under Obama. Yeah. So here's Trump gets in and he's like, oh, I want to do infrastructure. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then, wait, we need to fund our military. We need to get up to par here. So he's putting that money there under executive order, which is terrible when you get a commander-in-chief that comes in and goes, yeah, yoink, we're getting rid of all these executive orders. I'm going to sign 200 more. And we're going to just make sure you let everybody in.
We're negative towards the economy in general. The Democrats right now are banking on the laptop class. That's who they're politicians for. Give way too much money to other countries for various reasons. That's
Absolutely.
True, but there's also a reason they do that. We can get into that if you want.
But Trump was saying, and under Trump, he was saying, we need to stay here at home. We don't need to be the world leaders. We will react if we have to, but if we have a strong military that's within all these countries, and if that's how it's going to be, at least make sure we're a strong force that's protecting our allies. But when allies aren't paying for that protection, and he's saying, you guys need to pay. Why do we have our ships outside of your country and we're there to help you because we're allies, but we're footing the bill for everything. And my military is no longer going to be your free, security guards. You've got to put money in too. And we get a new commander-in-chief that's like, no, let's go back to the old ways. Well,
the new commander-in-chief kept Trump's Navy plan going, which is what is going to destroy. I'm saying this as a paleo-conservative libertarian, which is what is going to not destroy, but what is going to end our global economic control. Because our Navy patrolled the waters, making shipping safe. We rolled our Navy under Trump over into aircraft carrier strong, and we did away with a lot more destroyers, which meant we didn't have as many little ships patrolling routes, which kept pirates down.
And it kept people in Taiwan pretty much safe. And hi, Delytra.
Well, that's a complicated deal too. I think China's, anyways. That's. But I'm not, like me as a paleo conservative. I am a libertarian of the paleo conservative bent. I like the idea of going back to a standing army of pre-World War II levels and having a robust National Guard under that very state's control. That's just my point. I may be wrong. It may not work, but those are my thoughts and theories on it. One, it's cheaper. Two, states are responsible for their own stuff. We have less federal responsibility, not to mention I want to not pay federal taxes. I think federal taxes should be levied through the states, not directly from the individual. I'd rather
you're trying to go back to Constitution.
Oh, I know. I'm crazy. I'm crazy.
So
wild,
insane.
Right? What was it George Washington said the greatest threat to a nation is?
Government?
A standing army.
Oh, yeah.
He said the greatest threat to a free people is a standing army. And we kept one that was just essentially an officer and kind of an NCO corps for over 100 years, and after World War II, well, mostly after Korea, we maintained a standing army. They give credit to World War II, but it was mostly after Korea.
Well, I'm telling you that United States and patriotism is getting flack now. Like you're a target if you're a patriot. I know January 6ers, some of them never went in and just chanted USA, and they were still arrested. We have to not be. I mean, I think we need patriotism, but we have to back it up a bit. I don't want my son going to war over bullshit crap.
Would you send your son over to defend Israel?
I guess it depends. I mean, at what level? Are they boots on the ground in Gaza Strip? No, I think the Israeli army can handle that. But I think if they're offshore and, if Israel needs a missile or two, I'll let him be in Nevada with a little drone.
I want you guys at home to look up how much money we send to Israel and what Israel's money surplus was last year.
Just tell us.
It's like 3.6 billion, and their surplus was 3.6 billion.
Well, and are they asking for the funding?
Oh, yeah.
Or are we sending?
Oh, yeah.
Because we're sending it everywhere.
AIPAC, try shutting that funding down and see if AIPAC doesn't run someone against you. Look, I am not anti-Israel. I just think Israel should support itself.
I think they
just
will.
Like I think the same way with Ukraine. And I think if Israel can't support itself, then Israel can't support itself. I don't think, but I am a paleo-conservative.
If Israel can't support itself, are you prepared to let them be massacred because the other group believes they shouldn't have a right to breathe free air?
Exactly the same way I believe about any other foreign nation.
So do you believe Hitler should have been able to do what he did without American involvement?
We didn't get involved with Hitler over anything with Jews.
No, but later on we did. But we found out he was massacring people.
It wasn't until 20 years later that we even started mentioning that. You know why we got involved with Hitler? The same reason the French got involved with Hitler in the 1800s.
Just tell me.
Because they were the fastest growing population in Europe.
Either way, I think that the American citizen doesn't want to see a free people be massacred.
Sure.
Because one religion thinks the other religion shouldn't be able to live. And that's when I'm there. Yes, I think we should be defending Israel. They're an ally of ours, and they would do the same for us if it was happening on our soil. If they could, I guarantee they would. The problem is we have always been the world power in the sense that we're coming to help, and we've put ourselves in so many wars, or probably started them.
You're just reinforcing everything I said.
Yes, I would support Israel.
Okay.
They have a right to
I'm just
exist.
saying I'm a paleo-conservative. I'm what conservatives were.
When? How far back?
Cold water.
Well, Vietnam. That was crap. Why were we sending our teenagers over there?
Another Democrat war.
Right. I think we need to focus on a commander-in-chief that is going to protect the homeland.
What do you think about when Reagan left Lebanon?
What part?
After the Lebanon Marine Corps barracks bombing.
I have no idea.
I'm like that.
Well, explain it. You act like I'm reading your mind.
The Lebanese, in Lebanon, we had a Marine Corps barracks. We were over there supporting Israel. Israel was committing mass atrocities over there in Lebanon at that time. A truck bomb comes in, boom. We lose 23 Marines, 7 Air Force personnel, and Reagan pulls out the next day. And the Democrats excoriated him for it. And he said, I do not see a winning price to pay here.
I can appreciate that. But here's the thing. This in modern times, we don't even need to put boots on the ground to help another country. with technology the way it is, with our technology the way
I
it
know
is,
it's only like
we
$10
can-
million a
even
cruise
Obama
missile.
like drones. Obama wiped people out with drones. No
drones
one
are-
talks about that.
Drones are dirt cheap and have no cost for the pilot's souls.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm
In this
saying-
day and age, you can support a country from your own country
I'm saying
and get specific targets rather than killing masses of people and collateral damage.
I'm just telling you my feelings.
I'm done with war. I'm done with it. And I do believe that America should be protecting its homeland, and we should have a strong military that is capable of protecting the homeland. And I do want our allies in the world to be safe. And I think this invasion is happening all across the Western world, and all the Western, countries are in danger. So they've all got to get their militaries top of the line so they can protect their homelands too. And whatever help they need, we'll deliver from Space Force, from a satellite in the sky to wipe out the leader of whatever regime is trying to kill you.
Some rods from God.
People deserve to live.
Sure.
And I agree that migrants deserve to live just as much as Jews and Utahns and whoever. Human life is precious and we should protect it. And there's an evil that's just moving across and they have no concern for human life. Did you see the interview where the guy's interviewing the three, I think they're from Africa, the three guys, and they're talking about why they rape? And they're in England and they'd been raping women in the streets, like they're serial rapists. And the interviewer is saying, well, what about, aren't you worried about the repercussions? Well, no, we haven't been caught. And the other guy says, well, he's like, yeah, but what about what you're doing to the woman? And their answer was something like, right, we could get diseases. We understand there's a risk. And he's like, what about their soul? Well, no, I feel fine about it. And not one time did these guys even, this guy is just baffled because not one time did they the thought even cross their mind that this guy's talking about the victims. They don't even think about the victims. Well, what, don't you see that there's potential that this could really be bad? Well, yeah, if she gets pregnant or something. Not one time were they like, yeah, I'm a jerk. I'm hurting another human. They're entitled. And that's why a strong military that is protecting citizens from an invasion.
I would
of
argue
people.
a strong police force in that circumstance.
Absolutely.
And maybe a strong elected government. But that's England. And Western Europe has given up. Western Europe has fallen to progressivism. It's done. Western Europe is done. Eastern Europe has a chance, but Western Europe's done. They're trying to elect all these conservatives now, all these kind of, France and Italy and England keeps taking a shot at it. Let's face it. The England Tory party or conservative party or new right, whatever they're calling it, they're not. They're wolves in sheep's clothing.
We need to invest in our police forces. And I think that it wouldn't be terrible to give law enforcement the capabilities to do their job. A lot of them can't even do their job. You can't arrest someone for being an illegal immigrant, even though they're breaking an absolute law that is an American law. And if Congress hates that law so much, why haven't they changed it? It's because neither party wants that on their face.
I would argue also it's not a law that's written in a way that it's not being a lot of laws such as those are written in a way that can be interpreted by the executive branch.
The executive branch has no right to interpret any laws. It's not their job.
I agree, but it's written in a way that it's written. A lot of laws are written in a way that there is interpretation is needed to enforce it. And I would argue you've got the left-wing side, which wants those immediate gains. And now they have to keep allowing this just to try to maintain any relevance in any vote. I mean, even though, we don't need to go into that. And then you've got a Republican side who would probably like to rewrite it into a legible manner, but
Do or do not.
You've
There's
got-
no try.
like
Get it done.
But how do you write it and get it past a floor vote when they're split so close?
That's the problem.
That's why I'm saying that's why I'm black-pilled. I don't think we can fix this trajectory.
Then we stick with the law that's on the books and we interpret it the way we see fit as the governor of a state and as a law enforcement officer. There is a law. If you sneak into this country, break into this country, especially if you're a repeat offender, you either are in prison for life or you are sent back. But if that door is never shut, we will never stop this. And we're putting human lives and we're putting American lives in danger. And it's not just your life and my life. It's our kids. We're throwing them to the slaughter here. There's no one that is accountable right now. Everyone's passing the buck. And if Republicans get power and we have all 3 houses and this doesn't get addressed in an actual law and some reform isn't done so that we don't give any benefit to someone sneaking over here, if they know immediately they'll go to prison or they'll be sent back, if that doesn't get done, then I too may lose my faith in my party.
How about that dark horse Fetterman lately, though? Man,
I don't want to talk about him too much because I don't want anyone to make him stop.
Fetterman has been on fire. Holy cow. Coming out saying the border's a catastrophe.
This never happens to our side.
Fetterman is on fire.
It's usually we vote someone like Romney and they start voting with the Democrats.
I know.
It's never like
I know.
Fetterman starts.
I think Fetterman had a factory reset during his stroke. They had the Windows shutdown tune and then it started back up. And he's like,
and he's indignant about it.
Oh.
And that's even more because I'm sorry, it's common sense. You could have had a stroke and be rehabbing through it. And someone's asking you questions like this. And what he's not getting is the Democrat thumb. Or if he is getting it, he doesn't give a crap.
I think
he's
it's
just
because
like, well, this is common sense.
You know how he can't hear people talk and interpret it. He has to read it.
He's getting better. He's getting a lot better.
I think the Democrats keep yelling at him by phone and they're not sending him emails for him to read.
I guarantee it is tension with a knife
Dude.
at the Capitol when he's there.
Oh, he's
from his side.
He has become my favorite. I'm not kidding.
You know, of all the senators that have from Freedom Works that have that judgment on how they vote pro freedom, Fetterman's at 0% because I don't know if he's just not voting. But there's 2 that have a 99. One's got a 99% rate as voting for freedom, and it's Mike Lee.
Oh yeah.
And behind him, Rand Paul. And those are the only 2 in the Senate that have a 98% or higher. And Mike Lee's leading. In the House, there's maybe 4. Fetterman's not on that list because I don't know if he's voting. He's got 0%. But hey, I'll take it. Hi, Mom.
Yes.
Thank you for joining.
Yes. But, back to that. Fetterman. I want to spend a few minutes and chat about there's Dwayne. Do you guys need any help? If we have calls, go on.
Yeah, if you want to call in and talk about this, please keep your call to under 2 minutes if you can, so that we can get more in.
And one question would be ideal. But I
385-899-2134. Call us and share your ideas. And right now we're discussing the border, the military, and we totally want to hear from you. So
doesn't look like you guys need any help at all. You're doing just fine.
Yeah. If we get any calls,
this is Dwayne.
Have we had any calls, Dwayne?
You haven't, and I'm just monitoring. Okay. If you get any, I'll pop them in. Okay.
All right. Perfect.
Thank you, friend. Welcome to the show.
So what do you think? Yes. What do you think a possibility of a civil war kicking off on this stuff down in Texas?
I think we're highly close, but I think reasonable heads will prevail.
Or will we call it a civil police action? Because that's what we do nowadays.
Well, the police, this is military now.
Well, no, that's what we call Vietnam was a police action. Korea was a police action. The war on terror included multiple police actions.
When you see Democrat governors like the one in in Arizona
Mm-hmm.
where she was all for this and this and this and this. And then all of a sudden she's getting overwhelmed and she's like, I'm reaching out to the Biden administration. I'm reaching out. Help me. I mean, she can't get reelected if she keeps going along, nor should she.
Well,
And then
she
these
might
Democrats
be-
are getting left to dry. I hope it turns them a
I
little
don't
towards the light.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to go on there. Both parties have been in civil war with themselves for a long time, but I wonder, like, what are the avenues this could end up in a civil war down there in Texas? And I've heard a lot of people say, why hasn't Utah sent National Guard down? I'm going to tell you right now, I do not want Utah to commit our National Guard to Texas. We would serve Texas better if we stood with them and bolstered our own borders, because we need to, if we're going to stand as a whole, we need to make sure we can stand as a whole.
We need to get it on the books whether or not we are a sanctuary state or city. That needs to be handled.
Oh, that's a big one.
That needs to be handled, and we need to not be that. That's for one. But for two, this is happening in Texas. We should, if they need assistance at the border that protects all of us, we should offer that assistance, I think.
Let me ask you a question. Were I the bad guy, the Democrats game planning this out, and let's say we're on the footing of civil war, like on the eve of, and Utah is an artillery National Guard, and they have sent 40% of their forces down to Texas.
That's a lot.
And Idaho is a armor National Guard. This is what they actually are.
Yeah.
And they send 40% of their forces down.
We've still
lot. Got
I'm thinking 10%.
Okay, 10%. We've still got our 105s and 155s here in Gunnison and I think South Salt Lake. And Idaho still has its Abrams and its Bradleys up there.
We have an Air Force too.
They lose
right?
10% of forces. Yeah, we have Air Guard.
Okay, go on. We send 10%.
And I'm the
10%.
bad guys, and I see them send forces down there depleting their standing forces. Who do you think the target would be first?
Well, it's going to be the red states.
It's going to be the states who depleted their defensive forces.
But that's why you don't deplete your force.
Sending 10% down is depleting your force.
Send 2%.
You know what 10% means? Decimation.
Okay, 2%.
Okay, 2%.
You send assistance to a state in need.
Send them ammo. Send them concertina wire. Send them materials.
Okay, that's kind of what I have in mind.
Okay, but no, I preface this with, I've heard people say, why aren't we sending forces down? Like someone said, we have the 19th Special Forces Group.
Why doesn't
housed
the
here in
sheriffs
Utah.
of Texas deputize regular folks? Because I know regular folks that would be ready to go right down to the border and assist without even being military.
Probably.
But that's called a mob, and
maybe, I don't know. And would sheriffs want to deputize now? Because where did they go from
it
that?
depends on what their threat is. It's when they start coming over the border armed, and when fire starts happening, people start getting killed, because I don't think that our guards are going to be killing people.
I think the sheriffs would want to deputize when federal forces are starting to endanger their state.
That's the thing. When federal forces are coming in armed and threatening our military, our National Guardsmen and women who are there, who are just there to serve a purpose, is to protect the border.
I don't even think the sheriffs would have to deputize.
Nope. You're going to have people come from all over the country.
They would just have to give directions. Texas would probably show up on
The first bullet that's fired from the federal government against someone in the United States on this matter, that's a game changer.
I'll tell you, just as a student of history, the first bullet will probably come from Texas.
But under what situation?
That's just historically how it's always gone in civil wars.
Biden's already told us you're not going to win. You don't have F-16s. But our governor has access to F-16s.
That's just
States'
generally
rights,
how it goes.
people, states' rights
Could
has
you
to mean
imagine
something.
what it would look like if
Thank you, Fred.
the feds sent fighter aircraft to subdue a state?
It's
I think
over.
I think they would lose international support
They
overnight.
lose international support. I know many Democrats that would be like, nope,
Yeah.
nope, this isn't happening.
I'm just game planning here. I'm just telling you, were it me.
I think that's why the Biden administration isn't pushing so hard